Hello. Today we'll be opening another Preconstructed commander deck. This one is the Ruthless Regiment deck, led by Jirina Kudrow. So let's get started. I learned from my mistake with the Arcane Maelstrom deck. Set that down there. Set that down there. And let's start. So we got a oversized foil Jirina Kudrow, 1 red, a white, and a black for a 3/3 human soldier legendary creature. When Jirina Kudrow enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token for each time you've cast a commander from the command zone this game. Other humans you control get +2/+0. Strength is what keeps us alive. Compassion is what keeps us human. Got another life counter and blank card. And we got a little fact sheet about this deck. Let's read about the commanders first. Jirina Kudrow. The daughter of the former General Kudrow, Jirina is a Draneth military captain who tempers duty with compassion, taking a less ruthless, less antagonistic approach towards monsters than her father. She carries on her father's legacy of defending the city, even as she seeks to create more humane policies for dealing with bonders and monsters. Kelsian was raised on tales of the lost sanctuary of Ornn and its brutal destruction by monsters. Now an adult, he has one goal in mind: wipe out all monsters as payback for the downfall of that ancient city. He conceals his true face behind a terrifying mask as he takes down every creature he comes across with cold, ruthless efficiency. Yowza. And lastly, Trin, Champion of Freedom, and Silvar, Devourer of the Free. Wait a minute. As former member of the Draneth military, Trin watched as Luca was cast out of the city for violating its laws, and she vowed not to let the same thing happen to her. She keeps her identity as a bonder and her bonded companion, Silvar, a secret, working from within the city to change the people's beliefs about the monsters outside. Playing the deck. Jirina Kudrow is a high-ranking officer of Draneth's military, the people best trained to fight giant monsters. This deck wants to recruit humans and attack with them, which is what Jirina is made for. Each time you cast Jirina, she recruits even more humans for your army. Bring her out early to start attacking, then cast her repeatedly in the late game to maintain a powerful presence on the battlefield. Your goal is to attack early and knock out an opponent or two while everyone else is still setting up, then use Jirina's resiliency to remain relevant in the late game. A monster hunter by trade, Kelsian the Plague grows more powerful as he takes down more and more creatures over the course of the game. With Kelsian as your commander, your focus is less on all-out aggression and more on systematically destroying as many enemy creatures as possible. Don't forget that you can use his tap ability to damage a creature that's about to die anyway. As long as he gets his shot in, Kelsian doesn't care how his foe dies. In the world of Ikoria, some people form a special magical bond with a monster. Trin, Champion of Freedom, and Silvar, Devourer of the Free, share such a bond, working together to purge Drannith of corruption and hatred. Use Trin to seek out more humans to join your cause, while Silvar feeds your resources, growing stronger and stronger. This duo gives you a steady influx of humans and a conveniently aggressive way to use them. Cool. Doesn't sound like it'd be very good, though. Box is kind of a tight fit, which is probably a good thing. Start from the back this time. That way we don't end with an ad like we did last time. We got Terminate, a black and a red for an instant. Destroy target creature. It can't be regenerated. All suns must set. Garna, the Blood Flame. 3, a black and a red, for a 3/3 human warrior legendary creature with flash. When Garna the Blood Flame enters the battlefield, return to your hand all creature cards in your graveyard that were put there from anywhere this turn. Other creatures you control have haste. Vigilante Justice. 3 and a red for an enchantment. Whenever a human enters the battlefield under your control, Vigilante Justice deals 1 damage to any target. It begins as a whisper and ends with the red roar of fire. Humble Defector. 1 and a red for a 2/1 human rogue creature. Tap, draw 2 cards. Target opponent gains control of Humble Defector. Activate this ability only during your turn. You were once Mardu, so your body and will are strong. Now we must train your mind, says Hoon Jeskai Elder. Zulaport Cutthroat. 1 and a black for a 1/1 human rogue ally creature. Whenever Zulaport Cutthroat or another creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Eldrazi, ha! Try walking through Zulaport at night with your pockets full. Now that's dangerous. Ambition's Cost. 3 and a black sorcery. You draw 3 cards and you lose 3 life. Conquering your first world is the hardest. After all, my power grew as I moved from world to world, taking anything that would make the next taking easier. Says Ob Nixilis. Devout Chaplain. 2 and a white for a 2/2 human cleric creature. Tap and tap 2 untapped humans you control. Exile target artifact or enchantment. By Avacyn's decree, We shall cleanse these relics of their demonic past. Cavalry Pegasus, 1 and a white for a 1/1 Pegasus creature. Whenever Cavalry Pegasus attacks, each attacking human gains flying until end of turn. It is Hope, hoofed and winged, says Cymede, Queen of Akros. Banisher Priest, 1 and 2 white for a 2/2 human cleric creature. When Banisher Priest enters the battlefield, exile target creature and opponent controls until Banisher Priest leaves the battlefield. Oathbreaker, I cast you out. Shiny Impetus, 2 and a red for an aura enchantment with enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and is goaded. It attacks each combat if able, and attacks a player other than you if able. Whenever enchanted creature attacks, you create a treasure token. It's an artifact with tap. Sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana of any color. Parasitic Impetus, 2 and a black for an enchantment aura. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and is goaded. It attacks each combat if able, and attacks a player other than you if able. Whenever enchanted creature attacks, its controller loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Martial Impetus, 2 and a white, aura enchantment. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and is goaded. Whenever enchanted creature attacks, each other creature that's attacking one of your opponents gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Ooh, that's fun. General's Enforcer, a white and a black for a 2/3 human soldier creature. Legendary humans you control have indestructible. Pay a 2, a white, and a black. Exile target card from a graveyard. If it was a creature card, create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. More stubborn than Draneth's walls. Dire Tactics, a white and a black. Instant. Exile target creature. If you don't control a human, you lose life equal to that creature's toughness. I will preserve human life at all costs. I will stand alone against behemoths before I let them touch my city. I will hold the wall. Oath of the Coppercoats. Bastion of Remembrance, 2 and a black. Enchantment. When Bastion of Remembrance enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. Whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Lives taken are lives not easily forgotten. Sanctuary Lockdown, 2 and a white. Enchantment. Humans you control get +1/+1. Pay 2 and tap 2 untapped humans you control. Tap target creature and opponent controls. Draneth gives no quarter to traitors, says General Kudrow. Soul Ring costs 1 artifact. Tap to add 2. Lost to Time is the artificer's art of trapping light from a distant star in a ring of purest gold. Skull Clamp costs 1. It's an equipment artifact. Equipped creature gets +1/-1. Whenever equipped creature dies, draw 2 cards. Equip 1. The mind is a beautiful bounty encased in an annoying bone container. Rakdos Signet costs 2. It's an artifact. Pay 1 and tap. Add a black and a red. Made of bone and boiled in blood, Arachto's signet is not considered finished until it has been used as a murder weapon. Whoa. That's hardcore. Orzhov signet costs 2. It's an artifact. Pay 1 and tap. Add a white and a black. The form of the sigil is just as important as the sigil itself. If it's carried on a medallion, its bearer is a master. If it's tattooed on the body, its bearer is a slave. Yikes. Heirloom blade costs 3. It's an equipment artifact. Equipped creature gets +3/+1. Whenever equipped creature dies, you may reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card that shares a creature type with it. Put that card into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Equip for 1. Commander's Sphere artifact. Tap to add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. Sacrifice Commander's Sphere. Draw a card. It harmonizes with the essence of its master. Boros signet. Costs 2. It's an artifact. Pay 1 and tap. Add a red and a white. Have you ever held a Boros signet? There's a weight to it that belies its size. A weight of strength and pride, says Argus Kos. Arcane signet costs 2. It's an artifact. Tap to add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. It started as a mere drop of water. The magic mirror crystallized it into much more. Bonder's Ornament costs 3. It's an artifact. Tap to add 1 mana of any color. Pay 4 and tap. Each player who controls a permanent named Bonder's Ornament draws a card. Found families deserve a family crest too. This is Kinnan Bonder Prodigy. We got a swamp. I'm gonna guess that these are some swamps. 4 swamps. Next up we have Windbrisk Heights, land, hideaway. This land enters the battlefield tapped. When it does, look at the top 4 cards of your library. Exile 1 face down, then put the rest on the bottom of your library. Tap to add a white. Pay a white and tap. You may play the exiled card without paying its mana cost if you attacked this turn. If you attacked with 3 or more creatures this turn. Spinerock Knoll. It's a land with hideaway. This land enters the battlefield tapped. When it does, look at the top 4 cards of your library. Exile 1 face down, then put the rest on the bottom of your library. Tap to add a red. You may play the exiled card without paying its mana cost if an opponent was dealt 7 or more damage this turn. Smoldering Marsh. It's a swamp mountain land. Tap to add a black or a red. Smoldering Marsh enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or more basic lands. The continent of Gul'Draz is a geothermal swampland reeking of heat and decay. Shadowblood Ridge. Land. Pay 1 and tap. Add a black and a red. The carnage of conflicts long past still stains the Altarian soil. Exotic Orchard. Land. Tap to add 1 mana of any color that a land an opponent controls could produce. It was a strange morning when we awoke. We found our trees transformed. We didn't know whether to water them or polish them, says Poulin Bant, orchardist. Battlefield Forge. Land. Tap to add a colorless. Or tap to add a red or a white. Battlefield Forge deals 1 damage to you. Nahiri the Harbinger. 2, a red and a white. For a Nahiri legendary planeswalker. It enters the battlefield with 4 loyalty counters on it. Her +2 is you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Her -2 says exile target enchantment, tapped artifact, or tapped creature. Her -8 is search your library for an artifact or creature card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. It gains haste. Return it to your hand at the beginning of your next end step. Ooh. Crackling Doom. A red, costs a red, a white, and a black. Instant. Crackling Doom deals 2 damage to each opponent. Each opponent sacrifices a creature with the greatest power among creatures that player controls. Do not fear the lightning. Fear the one it obeys. Adriana, Captain of the Guard. Costs a 3, a red, and a white for a 4/4 human knight legendary creature with melee. When this creature attacks, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each opponent you attacked with a creature this turn. Other creatures you control have melee. If a creature has multiple instances of melee, each triggers separately. That sounds fun. Titan of Eternal Fire. Costs 5 and a red for a 5/6 giant creature. Each human you control has pay red and tap. This creature deals 1 damage to any target. There is no gift more precious or more perilous than fire. Shared Animosity. Costs 2 and a red for an enchantment. Whenever a creature you control attacks, it gets +1/+0 until end of turn for each other attacking creature that shares a type with it. It is the very nature of souls that they burn more brightly together than apart, says Vesiferous Flamekin Demagogue. Outpost Siege. Costs 3 and a red enchantment. As Outpost Siege enters the battlefield, choose Cons or Dragons. Cons. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library. Until the end of turn, you may play that card. Dragons. Whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, Outpost Siege deals 1 damage to any target. That's fun. Magus of the Wheel. 2 and a red for a 3/3 human wizard creature. Pay 1 and a red and tap. Sacrifice Magus of the Wheel. Each player discards cards Each player discards their hand, then draws 7 cards. Fate is not as fixed as you might think. Fumiko the Low-Blood, 2 and 2 red, for a 3/2 human samurai legendary creature. Fumiko the Low-Blood has Bushido X, where X is the number of attacking creatures. Whenever this creature blocks or becomes blocked, it gets +X until end of turn. Creatures your opponents control attack each combat if able. Captivating Crew costs 3 and a red for a 4/3 human pirate creature. Pay 3 and a red. Gain control of target creature and opponent controls until end of turn. Untap that creature. It gains haste until end of turn. Activate this ability only at any time you could cast a sorcery. We sail, we plunder, then we dance. Alesha, who smiles at death, costs 2 and a red for a 3/2 human warrior creature, legendary creature. With first strike, whenever Alesha, who smiles at death, attacks, you may pay 2 black-red or black-white hybrid. If you do, return target creature card with power 4 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, tapped and attacking. Greet death with sword in hand. Zathrid Necromancer costs 2 and a black for a 2/2 human wizard creature. Whenever Zathrid Necromancer or another creature you control dies, create a tapped 2/2 black zombie creature token. My commands shall echo forever in their dusty skulls. Painful Truths, 2 and a black for a sorcery with Converge. You draw X cards and you lose X life, where X is the number of colors of mana spent to cast this spell. As the Eldrazi spread, no secret that could give Zendikar's defenders an advantage was considered too dangerous to seek. Disciple of Bolas, 3 and a black for a 2/1 human wizard creature. When Disciple of Bolas enters the battlefield, sacrifice another creature. You gain X life and draw X cards, where X is that creature's power. Lord Bolas has shown me how each miserable little life holds untold resources. Unexpectedly Absent costs X and 2 white for an instant. Put target non-land permanent into its owner's library just beneath the top X cards of that library. Once you've been dragged down the currents of time, you'll never quite trust your own permanents again. Thraben Doomsayer costs 1 and 2 white for a 2/2 human cleric creature. Tap to create a 1/1 white human creature token. Fateful Hour. As long as you have 5 or less life, other creatures you control get +2/+2. Swarms of the Unhallowed claw at Thraben's gates. Do you still deny the end approaches? That hits a little close to home right now, but Thalia's Lieutenant, 1 and a white for a 1/1 human soldier creature. When Thalia's Lieutenant enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each other human you control. Whenever another human enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Thalia's Lieutenant. Riders of Gavany, 2 and 2 white for a 3/3 human knight creature with vigilance. As Riders of Gavany enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Human creatures you control have protection from creatures of the chosen type. Odric, Master Tactician, 2 and 2 white for a 3/4 human soldier legendary creature. With first strike, and whenever Odric, Master Tactician, and at least 3 other creatures attack, you choose which creatures block this combat, and how those creatures block. Fear holds no place in Faith's battle plan. Magus of the Disc, 2 and 2 white for a 2/4 human wizard creature. Magus of the Disc enters the battlefield tapped. Pay 1 and tap. Destroy all artifacts, creatures, and enchantments. Studying the journals of the necromage Nevinarol leaves the disciples gripped with the urge to exercise his draconian judgment. Knight of the White Orchid costs 2 white for a 2/2 human knight creature with first strike, and when Knight of the White Orchid enters the battlefield, if an opponent controls more lands than you, you may search your library for a plains card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Increasing Devotion, 3 and 2 white for a sorcery. Create 5/1/1 white human creature tokens. If this spell was cast from a graveyard, create 10 of those tokens instead. Flashback for 7 and 2 white. You may cast this card from your graveyard for its flashback cost. Then exile it. It's funny, it's called Increasing Devotion, but it doesn't actually increase your devotion. Haha, get it? Frontline Medic, 2 and a white for a 3/3 human cleric creature with Battalion. Whenever Frontline Medic and at least 2 other creatures attack, creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. Sacrifice Frontline Medic. Counter target spell with X in its mana cost, unless its controller pays 3. Dearly Departed, 4 and 2 white for a 5/5 spirit creature with flying. As long as Dearly Departed is in your graveyard, each human creature you control enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. Never forget our ancestors. They have not forgotten us, says Micaeus the Lunarch. Cleansing Nova, 3 and 2 white for sorcery. Choose 1. Destroy all creatures or destroy all artifacts and enchantments. In their final moments, the demons gazed upon grace in its purest form. Citywide Bust, 1 and 2 white for a sorcery. Destroy all creatures with toughness 4 or greater. Oh, you fellas are gonna love the lockup. Excellent roll, very low ceilings, says Libu's Boros Sergeant. Bounty Agent, 1 and a white for 2/2 human soldier creature with vigilance. Sacrifice Bounty Agent. Destroy target legendary permanent that's an artifact, creature, or enchantment. Lately, I've seen the biggest bounties in my career, and for the biggest names. Sanctuary Blade, Costs 2. It's an equipment artifact. As Sanctuary Blade becomes attached to a creature, choose a color. Equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has protection from the last chosen color. Molten Echoes. 2 and 2 red. Enchantment. As Molten Echoes enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Whenever a non-token creature of the chosen type enters the battlefield under your control, create a token that's a copy of that creature. That token gains haste. Exile it at the beginning of the next end step. Frontier Warmonger. 3 and a red for a 4/4 human warrior creature. Whenever one or more creatures attack one of your opponents or a planeswalker they control, those creatures gain menace until end of turn. She cares little for leaders or loyalties so long as the battle rages on. Fireflux Squad. 3 and a red for a 4/3 human soldier creature with haste. Whenever Fireflux Squad attacks, you may exile another target attacking creature you control. If you do, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card. Put that card onto the battlefield tapped and attacking, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Titan Hunter. 4 and a black for a 4/5 human warrior creature. At the beginning of each player's end step, if no creatures died this turn, Titan Hunter deals 4 damage to that player. 1 and a black. Pay 1 and a black and sacrifice this creature. You gain 4 life. Monster or human, my rate's the same. Species Specialist. 2 and 2 black for a 2/3 human warrior creature. As a Species Specialist enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Whenever a creature of the chosen type dies, you may draw a card. I don't have anything against Snapdax. I'm just more of a dog person. Verge Rangers. 2 and a white for a 3/3 human scout creature with first strike. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. As long as an opponent controls more lands than you, you may play lands from the top of your library. You can play a land this way only if you have an available land play remaining. Flawless Maneuver. 2 and a white. Instant. If you control a commander, you may cast this spell without paying its mana cost. Creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. Captain, your units are the tip of our spear. There is 0 room for failure, says Jirina Kudrow. Call the Coppercoots. 2 and a white for an instant with Strive. This spell costs 1 and a white more to cast for each target beyond the first. Choose any number of target opponents. Create X 1/1 white human soldier creature tokens, where X is the number of creatures those opponents control. When the alarm crystal flashes, Drannith's finest answer the call. Let me remove all the basics real quick. Windscarred Crag. Land. Windscarred Crag enters the battlefield tapped. When Windscarred Crag enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. Tap to add a red or a white. Scoured Barrens. Land. Scoured Barrens enters the battlefield tapped. When Scoured Barrens enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. Tap to add a white or a black. Evolving Wilds. Land. Tap and sacrifice Evolving Wilds. Search your library for a basic land card. Put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. It's not hard to grasp that this land does not belong to us, says Gavi Nest Warden. Bloodfell Caves. Land. Bloodfell Caves enters the battlefield tapped. When Bloodfell Caves enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. Tap to add a black or a red. Unclaimed Territory. Land. As unclaimed territory enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Tap to add a colorless, or tap to add 1 mana of any color. Spend this mana only to cast a creature spell of the chosen type. Temple of the False God. Land. Tap to add 2 colorless. Activate this ability only if you control 5 or more lands. When the gods become apathetic, the people will worship anyone who answers their pleas. Rakdos Carnarium. Land. Rakdos Carnarium enters the battlefield tapped. When Rakdos Carnarium enters the battlefield, return a land you control to its owner's hand. Tap to add a black or a red. Path of Ancestry. Land. Path of Ancestry enters the battlefield tapped. Tap to add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. When that mana is spent to cast a creature spell that shares a creature type with your commander, scry 1. Orzhov Basilica. Land. Orzhov Basilica enters the battlefield tapped. When Orzhov Basilica enters the battlefield, return a land you control to its owner's hand. Tap to add a white and a black. Nomad Outpost. Land. Nomad Outpost enters the battlefield tapped. Tap to add a red, a white, or a black. Only the weak imprison themselves behind walls. We live free under the wind, and our freedom makes us strong, says Zergo, Khan of the Mardu. Myriad Landscape. Land. Myriad Landscape enters the battlefield tapped. Tap to add a colorless. Pay 2 and tap. Sacrifice Myriad Landscape. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards that share a land type. Put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. Getting some pretty decent lands in these. I mean, they're not fetch lands or shock lands, but Command Tower. Land. Tap to add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. When defeat is near and guidance is scarce, all eyes look in one direction. I mean, this card's basically better than a dual land, isn't it? Maybe I'm just excited. Boros Garrison. Land. Boros Garrison enters the battlefield tapped. When Boros Garrison enters the battlefield, return a land you control to its owner's hand. Tap to add a red and a white. Bajuka Bog. Land. Bajuka Bog enters the battlefield tapped. When Bajuka Bog enters the battlefield, exile all cards from target player's graveyard. Tap to add a black. Here we've got some tokens. Looks like we've got 5 colorless treasure artifact tokens with tap, sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana of any color, and 5 1/1 white human soldier creature tokens. We also got 5 black 2/2 zombie creature tokens. And 5 more 1/1 white human soldier creature tokens. We got a foil Sylvar, Devourer of the Free. 3, a black and a red for a 4/2 Cat Nightmare legendary creature. Partner with Trin, Champion of Freedom. When this creature enters the battlefield, target player may put Trin into their hand from their library, then shuffle it. It has Menace and sacrifice a human, put a +1/+1 counter on Sylvar, Devourer of the Free. It gains indestructible until end of turn. Seems like that's counter to what Trin is trying to prove, but Trin, Champion of Freedom, 3 and a white for a 3/3 human soldier legendary creature. Partner with Sylvar, Devourer of the Free. When this creature enters the battlefield, target player may put Sylvar into their hand from their library, then shuffle. At the beginning of your end step, if you attacked this turn, create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. Maybe that's why they work together. It's like a sitcom where they're actively working against each other, and Sylvar eats a person, and Trin's like, Sylvar, not again. And then everybody laughs. Maybe they play a funny riff. Kelsian, the Plague, costs a red, a white, and a black for a 2/2 human assassin legendary creature with vigilance and haste. Kelsian the Plague gets +1/+1 for each experience counter you have. Kelsian deals 1 damage to target a creature you don't control. When that creature dies this turn, you get an experience counter. Aim for an eye. Better they never see you. And we got another Jirina Kudro, but this one is normal sized. Costs 1, a red, a white, and a black for a 3/3 human soldier legendary creature. When Jirina Kudro enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token for each time you've cast a commander from the command zone this game. Other humans you control get +2/+0. Strength is what keeps us alive. Compassion is what keeps us human. I feel like this card would have been better if they had made it 3 tokens and maybe made her like a 2/2 or something. I feel like that would have been a better card. Because creating 1 is, you're paying 2 to create 2 and then 4 to create 3. That doesn't seem worth it at all. Anyway, thanks for watching.